Tammy. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good this evening. How has your weekend been?
Good. Been busy.
I was gonna say it feels busy, huh?
Yep, busy. Always busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. How was
That's
yours?
It was good. Same here, kind of busy, So we've had a lot of like we were doing kind of dash this weekend. It's been really busy. I guess Mother's Day, isn't it being next weekend, I believe?
Yes, another busy weekend. Yep.
Yeah, so we're gonna probably get busy for that reason. And then speaking of Mother's Day, we're gonna be watching a America's Most Wanted interview of a mother.
Yes.
So, do you
How
have any thoughts or anything maybe that you want to think, like maybe comment on before we get into this like little clip of the America's Most Wanted interview?
I have not seen it all the way through.
Okay.
I have seen parts of it, uh,
Hmm.
but I haven't really sat and seen it all the way through because I knew that that might be something me and you were going to do. So I kind of wanted to wait and see most of it for the first time and see,
Right.
what
Well,
kind of
it's interesting. The reason I wanted to watch this one versus some of the stuff that's already happened in interviews is because in this one you can almost feel KP's tension the
Mm-hmm.
whole time she's like walking out, quote unquote, what happened, like this whole time, in my opinion, and the things that allegedly happened. So I feel like in this one, she feels a lot more kind of abrasive. It kind of reminds me of like a stone wall or kind of like maybe even sandpaperish kind of feeling to where you kind of just, she seems like irritated.
Okay. Okay.
So, and that's kind of where I'm going with that. Yeah, she just seems very irritated to me. So that's kind of why I wanted to look at this one first.
Okay.
So we're gonna go ahead and start that, and then we'll kind of comment on the end or something.
Sure. That's
All
good.
right, so here we go.
You may know him from Big Brother, but he also has worked undercover with the FBI, DEA, and Secret Service. Elizabeth Smart, a survivor and advocate whose abduction recovery was made possible through America's Most Wanted. Payne Lindsay, whose investigative true crime podcast Up and Vanished has brought cold cases back into the national spotlight. And tonight's special guest, Callahan Walsh, a familiar face to America's Most Wanted. Callahan does incredible work with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Thank you so very much, everyone, for joining us. Let's get to our first case now. A missing child, Sebastian Rogers. On February 25th, 2024, Sebastian's mother said goodnight to her 15-year-old son. The next morning, Sebastian was gone.
Here we go, y'all.
Hey, missing juvenile. Me and white male, 3 blonde hair, approximately 5 foot. I'm going to turn down. I was going to be wearing a black sweatshirt and black sweatpants. Didn't know those have a criminal Catholicism.
Sebastian is tall and skinny, has a contagious smile, loves video games, loves cats.
Boundless amounts of energy. Sebastian reminds me of a deer prancing through the woods, enjoying the smell, the breeze, new things. That's my son.
February 25th, the day before Sebastian went missing, Chris was in Memphis at work. So Sebastian and I went to Texas Roadhouse. After dinner, right around 9 o'clock, he laid down. I heard a noise in his room. I said, I don't care what you're doing, but you gotta knock it off and you gotta go to bed. And he answered, yes, ma'am. And I said, okay. And that was the last time that I spoke with Sebastian. The next morning, when I went in his room, he wasn't in his bed. After a minute or two, when I couldn't find him, I called Chris and I said, I can't find Sebastian. He's not in the house.
I got off work and I had a text message from Sebastian's stepfather.
I said, hey, I don't know how to tell you this, but Sebastian's missing.
I headed straight over to their house.
I started driving through the neighborhood. I was panicking. I was looking everywhere. Like, where is he? What happened? Did he go with someone? Did someone take him? By the time I pulled into the school, Christopher was already telling me to turn around because the authorities were on their way.
They used helicopters, they used drones, they used ATVs, horseback.
How would he
An
know?
extensive search didn't yield one significant lead or even a glimpse of the boy on any doorbell cam video. Days later, investigators combed through a landfill, still saying they had found nothing.
We have nothing. We just have speculations. We get criticized. The father gets criticized. Law enforcement's been criticized.
Online sleuths are really analyzing videos and creating their own theories.
Sebastian is putting something in his pocket.
Surveillance footage from a neighbor shows two people outside of Sebastian's house that night. Something happened.
Tonight marks 1 year since Sebastian Rogers disappeared near Beach High School in Sumner County.
My life is not the same without my son. He's not here, and he's somewhere. Someone has him.
This year has been the worst nightmare I could have imagined come alive.
Just want whoever has him, just give him back. It's my son.
Wow, that dad. You can feel it. So we want to talk about theories now, Payne, and what might have happened with Sebastian. What are your thoughts?
I mean, here's his house. They searched miles outside of that neighborhood for days. Helicopters on the ground. They even drained a lake. He's nowhere. I don't think Sebastian would have gone outside on his own. There's someone else involved here. Somebody who was familiar to him, but a stranger to everyone else.
We also have to consider he could have left on his own volition. We know children on the autism spectrum tend to wander. According to the American Academy of Pediatrics, nearly half of all children on the autism spectrum will go missing at some point from their environment.
Wow.
But I think something caused him to flee his home. Was that into the open arms of a predator? Or was there a roaming predator that just happened to see Sebastian walking down through the neighborhood?
And to me, one thing that stands out is his shoes. He always wore his shoes according to his mom.
Yeah. She shared a story that as a younger boy, he walked through a pile of dirt, turned out to be a bed of fire ants, and he had a thing about always wearing his socks and shoes. I can't think that a 15-year-old child would get up in the middle of the night and leave without his shoes in February. It's cold. So for me, that says that someone has come and taken him, or someone else is involved. Someone knows something. And as easy as it is to be like, oh, that could never happen, like your bedroom is the safest place in the world. Well, no, bedrooms are not the safest place in the world. I was taken from my bedroom. It can happen to anyone.
Yeah.
So when you consider what you just said, Elizabeth, and according to Katie, that night, she goes to bed, he goes to bed, then around 10 p.m., there's a bump or a thud. She calls out to him. He says, you know, I'm fine. Yes, ma'am. I'll stop moving. And then that's the end of it. And according to her, when she went to bed, the doors were locked. And when she woke up, the doors were locked. Were the windows locked? That's a big question. Were they secure? Because if they weren't, it could mean one of two things. That thud, him responding, was someone else in there with him?
Or someone was with him and going.
Exactly.
So I do want to bring up this home security camera footage. This looks like foot traffic right in here.
Yeah, if you look at the footage here, you can see subject number 1, allegedly, right? It looks like something that's illuminated, which, by the way, we haven't mentioned it yet. According to Katie, there was a flashlight that Sebastian liked using that was missing. So you consider that, it does look like two people holding flashlights.
Yes, that paints a picture that is foul play.
Yes.
So I want to help the public now. We want to find Sebastian. What do you say to people, Elizabeth?
First of all, to the 16-year-olds of the country, the high school age, really, if you know someone who looks like Sebastian, if you know something about Sebastian, tell your parents, call into the show, call the police, report it. This might be the break that we need. To the parents, if you have seen a 16-year-old boy that looks like Sebastian, do not be afraid to pick up the phone and call.
There is a $50,000 reward to help find him. Sebastian Rogers was about 5'5" when he was last seen, and he wears glasses. Sebastian is not comfortable with strangers.
If you're someone from this small town and you're in this neighborhood, check your cameras. There might be someone sitting on some doorbell cameras footage. I bet you he's in this small town in Tennessee.
Wow, that's an interesting theory.
But this isn't the most rural area in the world. We're not talking about out in the Rocky Mountains. This is a neighborhood
There's
where
a highway going this up.
there's high foot traffic everywhere. and still no sign of him.
Wow. Thank you to our team of experts. And you all know our purpose is to examine these cases and
Okay, so I'm just going to stop it there for right now.
Okay.
So what is your first kind of thoughts or feelings on that interview?
Oh, there's a lot there.
Yeah.
First of all, it's not that I don't like the panel.
Right.
I mean, they're I'm sure they're good people. I know, I remember her story, you know, but, and I think that's great that they've got different ideas and perspectives on there. I just don't feel like they're looking at it from, are the parents responsible? Because she was kidnapped from her home.
Right.
And
So it
then
doesn't really
one,
compare in the same from what we know so far.
right.
In my
And one
opinion.
was abducted. I think he was abducted by strangers. Is that correct? One of the other
Yes.
one.
Yes.
So I really don't think they're looking at it from a, what if the parents did it, because the parents are there, they're interviewing them. So I kind of feel like they're kind of coddling them a little. I feel
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
I feel like, and I don't like the come alive. Who uses those terms?
Exactly. That kind of bothered me in the sense of it's a very odd way to put the interview in the
Yes.
sense of what you want to hear. And so I do agree about that. The come alive is an odd choice of words.
Yes.
And she keeps choosing phrases like that
Yeah.
to use.
I just don't see a very understanding stepfather in Chris Watts. I mean, Chris Watts, and him either. And Chris Watts.
Right, exactly.
I just don't see it. I don't see the,
the care.
Yeah, I just,
Yeah.
it's just like, feels like he's disassociated himself
Right.
from him. You can compare him to Chris Watts, though.
Yeah, pretty much. They kind of are acting the same in the sense of the disassociation, and that actually comes in the chart we're going to read. That it almost like it isn't. It's actually word for word in the chart. He is disassociating from that moment and what he knows.
Right.
So, and I think that's how he gets through it. Her a little bit differently. I think she
Right.
kind of leans more on alcohol to get through her issues.
Mhm.
I'm not saying he doesn't do the same. I'm more than likely sure he does, because we've seen a lot of these lives kind of where he is going on, and you can clearly hear in his speech he's probably also intoxicated, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So
in my opinion too, I think alcohol plays a part, because in my opinion, I feel like it was before he even went missing that was a issue.
An issue, right? And I think it probably has increased, like we were saying, as it's gone on,
Right.
because I think they're starting to have maybe a harder time sleeping, harder time
Right.
dealing with coping, what's happening, what's going on, what's being talked about, what's being everything, and like you said, they are very much being coddled in this interview. Every interview they're in, they're coddled. Where again, I had said before, I feel like that if you're the parent of a missing child, you come into an interview, wouldn't you own that interview?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, this is my interview. I don't, and if somebody were to even make me feel like I couldn't do that, then I would very much take dominance over that again.
Right.
So that's just my personality. But I feel like if you're really truly searching for your child, you would do that.
Right.
That's just my opinion.
Mhm.
So, and you look at Seth's interview, and right away, the way he described Sebastian was just so beautiful.
It was so
He's a deer prancing in the woods, and that's what you see with Sebastian. That's what his, birth date and his chart so far has come out with. He's just this curious, open-minded, excited individual to just kind of live life and see everything,
And you with that description, it's like innocent and and wanting to see new, like spring, like, babies being born and grass growing and flowers. But it's kind of like just that new curiosity.
Right. And if you do look at his tarot and things like that, he is the sun card. Again, he is a sun sign. He is a Sagittarius, if I looked at his chart. So, that is going to be some energy that he gives off. It's very warm, loving, happy, exuberant, excited energy. And that's amazing. Like you said, it's young at heart, it's loving. So that to me was a perfect description of Sebastian, from what I've seen so far.
Yeah.
And what I've done with his birth charts. So also, we kind of talked about other things, that he keeps CP keeps referencing to, that they have only things but like speculation right now, but they have no proof ever.
Oh yeah, nothing, absolutely nothing, according to him.
Again, and night and day to what you hear Seth say.
Yeah, you hear Seth say they do have stuff.
Right. So what would be the purpose of that, right? Like what's
Right.
the purpose of trying to lead somebody the other way? And again, you know, it's like I don't want to like go in on these people, but there's also a point where it's like there's time to push them and there's time for pressure. And this is the time. We're past a year. They're not telling the truth. It's very obvious. The whole world knows it. So at this point, they need to just say what they've done. Let everybody like I said again, like set that energy free because it's going to get set free at some point. And if you want it to go the way that you possibly could maybe have it go in your best favor, I think that's what you should probably do.
Right.
Because it's not going to go down the way you want it to if you force it.
No.
It's not going to be the way you want it to go down. So you've already messed up enough. So you might as well just open your mouth and admit what you've done. You're already doing that. Like you said, Katie's doing that in different ways. All these the tattoos alone, you know, things like that. People don't get tattoos like that. Like you said in the last one, her behavior is, I grieved my child. He's gone.
Right.
And I hate to say that because again, I pray for Sebastian day and night that he comes home and things change. But right now, that's not how Katie and Chris are making me feel.
No.
And again, you look at this interview, like you're saying, it's just not how you feel. Like, and you're looking at Seth and you're looking at them. So you're like, it's very, again, night and day. The host say it. She literally says that dad. You know what I mean? So she's very much even saying that she's acknowledging where the energy's coming from. And it's,
you know, Seth does the interview in his home and they choose not to.
Right. Well, I heard that too. Like, was that not their home?
No, that's not their
Okay.
home. That was I don't know if that was an Airbnb or a hotel or something like that.
And why? Like, why? Because Sebastian's room's probably is cleaned out and they don't want everybody to know.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because
wouldn't you let him be there?
Wouldn't you want the world to see it? You know what I mean? Like, that's what they want. They want, like I said, so to me, again, it's like pressure needs to be put on them in different ways, like in my mind. Because you get to a certain point, and that's when, you know, I kind of brought up in one video that, like, when I say, like, you should be able to be charged for things if certain things happen, I mean, like, I feel like this is a good reason to push something like and I heard this on another channel too, and I was trying to even told, you know, my Chris this, that I feel like some kind of law should be done from this, and like Summer and all these children, Harmony, Montgomery, they, like, if there's some history of something that as extreme as these people have, there should be no reason why you shouldn't be able to charge them with something in a situation like this.
Right.
As time goes on, especially when you can see they're not really cooperating, things aren't coming back as what they say it should.
Yeah.
So, and again, I don't know how much pressure they put individually on them, but I think if you were to get Katie right where you want her and get her to maybe say something or do something, then you're going to get them both to flip on each other.
Right.
I don't think Chris is loyal. So,
he's only being loyal, in my opinion. He's only being loyal for a reason.
He's trying to save what he knows has been done.
Yeah.
Because he's participated in that, in my opinion, from everything I've seen, you know? So yeah, I do think that pressure needs to be put more on her. And I think you're kind of going to get that response that maybe you want from him. And maybe that's kind of going to move that forward, I'm hoping, as far as that. So, you know, we'll see. But I do think this is a good opportunity to put in a place of some kind of law where you can't do this anymore. You can't just treat your kids how you want, and then all of a sudden they just happen to disappear, and then you're just off the hook.
Right.
With 5 CPS reports just in one state.
Right.
So, yeah, I you know, again, I'm not trying to like put anybody down, but like I kind of am. You know, I'm sick of the behavior. I'm sick of these channels coming on, and then they're the ones trying to push the bad agenda, and then they're sitting there going, "Oh, the green team, the green team." What do you mean? The people who are searching for a missing child who want them to become home safe?
Right.
Are those the people you're making fun of by calling them the green team and all your little comments? Because yeah, they are the green team. They're searching for Sebastian because they love him and they want him to come home safely.
Right.
So you should be supporting that and not making fun of that.
Yeah, I don't.
So they should be ashamed of themselves, every last person.
Trying to stop, you know, they threaten people and want the billboards taken down and all of that. None of that makes sense. Why would you do that if your child is missing? You would want every tool that there could be.
Right. And that's not what they're doing. It's like everything is resistance. And that's why I said in the beginning, you know, you try to just like, and that's why I shut off my thought process when I'm watching these kind of things and just see how I feel. And it comes off very hard, very like abrasive, very don't even try it kind of thing.
Right.
You know, like, I'm not going to say any, and she does give less and less more information because, and think about it, the information she's giving is the only ones where you can't really refute too much at this point.
Right.
And like I was saying, you know, in my opinion, you know, Sebastian was in the one place he should have felt the safest and been the safest.
Right.
He was in his bed, according to his mother,
Mm-hmm.
safely. So what happened, Katie?
With her there to protect him.
Right. As I said, the safest place a child could be is in their bed at home with their mother.
Right.
So what happened in your backyard that y'all won't talk about?
Right.
That's
Because
what
if
I
there
want to
was
know.
fights in my backyard, I would want to know. I would know. I wouldn't
Right.
be saying they were nothing. I would be finding it out.
Well, we all know you're going to be in that bush.
Right.
Yeah, I'm going to jump out that bush. What are you
Right.
doing back here?
You better watch it because there's plenty of places I'll be.
And I will turn my camera footage over. Okay. That's what it's
Right.
for.
You're right. And my cameras will be working.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about that?
And if you hack it, I'm going to make sure I pay somebody to find out who in the like hacked my computers.
Exactly.
Because no, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like she says, no, ma'am. That
No,
ain't
ma'am.
going to happen. No, ma'am.
Yeah.
We ain't
Mhm.
doing that.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, so we're going to kind of jump into this chart. Let me see real quick. I'm going to pull it up on the screen. So this is going to be like a comparison of kind of what is going on in this case. Again, at this point, energetically from the charts and stuff that we've gotten. So it's going to be a little bit of that, but we're kind of, is there anything else about because we have some points kind of written over here in chat about anything that was said in the video or before we get into this that you wanted to also talk about from that video or just random thoughts you've had?
For for the video, I don't know. I don't, in my opinion,
The nightmare come alive.
Yeah, that bothered me more than probably anything that she said, because she uses a lot of those kind of phrases along in other of the few interviews that she's done.
Right.
And I don't think, as far as helping them, I don't think it helped them. I kind of would like to know what they accomplished from it.
Yeah. I don't know.
What
I
was
don't think it
theirs?
was that. I don't think the interview was trying to accomplish it. I think they were just trying to look not guilty.
That's what I mean. What
Oh,
were
yeah,
they?
yeah.
What were they trying to do? What was their reasoning for doing it?
Yeah. I just think everybody would have already come down harder than they already are on them. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
everything they do just like seeps out guilt. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Again, there's just, I mean, and you don't want to look at it that way, but it is that way.
It is
You know what I
that.
mean? And the nightmare come alive. So like we were talking about on one live, the very first one we did for Sebastian, so it was like 3 lives ago. We were talking about how my son, you know, again, wanders and stuff like that. And it's happened a couple times. So actually I was thinking about it, you know, today, since we were going to be talking about this, and he's actually wandered 3 times off almost and been lost. So again, you know, for her to say it's my worst nightmare come alive, I always say it's my worst nightmare come true. Right.
Yeah,
So I don't usually use the word alive for that sentence. And
Yeah.
then again, you know, it's always something like I'm saying with the wandering situation, there's nothing else around it that points to that was true at the time.
Right.
And she doesn't use the right wording. She doesn't even talk or give you the feeling of somebody who knows what she's talking about. It wasn't until interviews later that you can tell they studied maybe other parents talking about it.
Yeah.
And things being said about them that all of a sudden they had like some sense or something.
Yeah. Well, what bothered me too in this is they're kind of comparing Sebastian to all children that wonder.
Right. And that's in the statistics, I'm sorry, tongue tied, that they went off of. And that was another point I had. They were only going off of that, like what they saw. Like they didn't look up the fact that if this kid does that and that's what happens in the end, they've probably done it a bunch of times before. And that's why I said, like with my son, he's one time on the bus. Like I said, luckily the bus driver was on her P's and Q's. She called me right away, asked if I picked him up. No, I hadn't. Luckily, Chris was already in the car. I call him and tell him to go find him, and we found him. He was on the corner around the school. He had followed some other kid off. Again, wondering. That's what I'm saying. That's how it happens. And again, even when we were on there and I was talking to you, I said I had happened to look up, and Andrew was just in the backyard sitting in the chair all the time, you know, and I was sitting at the door the whole time. So it's just little situations like that. You see it all the time throughout it, and she's very much, no, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So
and that's like if they why didn't they do that as a part of the program? Why didn't they say, well, but he's never done that before, so he can't be considered as a wanderer? They didn't even do that. They just went right over that and just made it sound like that he could have left.
Yeah.
When he's never done that before.
Yeah,
That
and
was,
then
that was not.
another person pointed out too, and I don't know. I think Seth is the one that said it though. But when they first called, the first thing they said is he's missing. It wasn't like in the sense of like, have you seen him? And usually that's the first things people will ask. And they said that about like Scott Peterson. Scott
Right.
Peterson, when he called Lacey's family, the first thing he said was Lacey's missing. And they were like, well, how do you know she's missing already? You know, like,
Right.
have you looked here and there? You know, so the time frame didn't fit.
Well, the actual thing CP said to Seth was, "Don't be mad."
Mm-hmm.
That's
He
actually
did.
what he said, and they left that out of America's Most Wanted.
Yeah, he said, from what I saw, he told him, what are you gonna do if this goes south?
Yeah, and Sebastian had just went missing.
Yeah, and then he said after they had taken the electronics from Seth's house, like Seth had mentioned, you know, allegedly from what I've seen, that he had called them maybe asking about electronics, like what had happened with them, and like if they had theirs back yet. And he said that CP told him to come get Sebastian's stuff, like his PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that made my stomach drop, because I think at this point, I think he said it was only 2 or 3 weeks past the time Sebastian went missing.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that's not. I mean, I didn't like that. Kind of like in some of the past comments, I didn't like the way it was presented. That's all.
Yeah, they're putting final things on it already.
Very final things. Extremely final things.
Yeah.
So I guess, do you think we should leave it like this or pull the screen up more full? Can you see it pretty well?
I can see it well. How about chat? Sometimes it looks smaller in chat.
Yeah, chat. Let me know if you want to pull it up all the way, the document that I have. So this is going to be kind of the birth analysis I've done with the mother and the stepfather's energy, kind of what's going on right now, how they're kind of maybe behaving towards each other, how they're feeling, and how they're going to feel kind of here in the near future. So it is kind of like a blend of everything. So it's going to have parts where it's more kind of a spiritual summary too at the end. So it is going to reference to things in a very much spiritual term. So kind of want to let everybody know that. So if that's not something you're interested in, it's probably isn't going to be something you're interested in.
Right.
So if you're not into that. So I'm going to go ahead and just start reading it. And I guess if anybody in chat says they want it pulled up fully, just let me know. So everything here, again, I put on the last one is written or stated in this video by you or me, is just allegedly known in our opinions. So thank you before we start there.
And we are entitled to that. So
right. And so I also got a really nice candle. I just wanted to say before we did this, it's got an S on it, a beautiful gold S, and it's in a gold 10 for Sebastian. And it is grapefruit and ginger. So let me see actually if I can maybe just show you the 10 before. So this is going to be
pretty. Yeah.
And it smells great. It's so nice and clean smelling and just fresh and vibrant. So I love it. But I wanted to light that just because, you know, with him being a fire sign and stuff, I thought that would be
Joyful Dolphin says, please pull it up.
Okay.
Fully, please.
1 second. Here we go.
And thank you.
Yes, thank you. Let me see. I'm not great with the scenes yet and switching them, so give me 1 second.
Oh, I know. I get
Okay,
it.
here we go. So let me scroll up a bit because I think I'm too far down. Okay.
Well, and they changed StreamYard, so
yeah, it's kind of
get
not working the
used to it,
same.
you know?
Yeah, it's not working the same. Everything's kind of laid out different. So I noticed that when I came in, I had to kind of redo all my settings.
Yeah.
So, okay. So we have Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers. So this is going to be the spiritual profile, basically, of stepfather here, Chris. So I did go off of the only documents I could find for the two of them. And it does have their address, and it's under Truth Finder. So if anybody has a different birthday or year for them, you can always drop that in the comments at some point. I can always look that up too. And then if you have questions about something I don't go into, drop that also in the comments. I'll look into it further. But this is going to be his spiritual profile of kind of the situation. He's born in October 1983 from what I could find. I didn't know his birthplace, but since it happened in Henderson, that's where I put. Or Hendersonville.
Yeah, I don't know where he was born either.
Yeah, I don't either. But since it happened there,
right? Yeah,
parents. I felt like that was the best place to kind of go with it right now. But basically, his life theme and what's surrounding him is shadow control, emotional consequences, and the soul's reckoning. So that's his life theme right now for what's happening, and that's actually been his life theme since he's met, Sebastian and Katie and ended up in this situation.
Yeah.
So the mask he wears, outward demeanor versus the inner world. From the outside, his demeanor is designed to be disarming. He is likely the type to speak softly, laugh easily, and appear non-threatening. And this is when I think he's not challenged. I don't think this is what we're seeing. So
No, he's not being
no,
challenged.
I think if this wasn't happening, this is what you'd be seeing. So
Yeah.
often described by others as laid back, quiet, or just trying to help. And in the interview, that's what he does. Where Katie falls short, he interjects and he
Yeah.
tries to kind of smooth that over because she's not good at doing that.
Exactly.
So example, news interviews. So this is not purely performance. He believes this identity because his deeper psyche basically has compartmentalized his darkness. So thoroughly, he cannot afford to look directly at it. So that's what I'm saying. It's very much kind of what you're saying, dissociating from his behavior and his thoughts. So
And he doesn't directly look at the interviewer either. He's always kind of looking down or, you know, completely down. But, you know, if you watch his interviews, sometimes he don't look directly at the person.
Right. And it's easier, I think, for him to stay on track of what he's trying to present. Now, I'm not going to say that he has remorse. I don't think he does about a lot of things. But I think for the most part, I think he has moments of where he gets nervous and he might kind of panic. And that's where he kind of, you know, that energy switches a bit.
Yeah.
So, but it says his soul is fragmented at this point. So one part attempts to cling to his mask of normalcy, while another darker energy lies beneath it. He is starting to sense the crumbling of a structure that he once felt was unshakable to him because he built this structure. He thought this layout he gave was going to help him thrive, and it didn't.
Yeah.
So he is not at peace. He walks in a kind of internal fog where guilt is buried beneath justifications and silence. His sleep is light and mostly unrestful. In some moments of quiet, he hears Sebastian's name in his mind.
Good.
The memory echoes and pushes it, but he pushes it away. So that's what I'm saying. I do think he has this more than what Katie does. I think Katie's in denial of the sense that she's just told herself she needed to, kind of thing. So the hidden psyche, what's beneath the surface?
And he's always like he's been married
too many times.
It's 5 times, and he's all of them. He's, you know, allegedly there's been something happen in all of them. Not like this, but like, you know, like with Nina, she was abused and her kids were abused. You know, allegedly she's told her story. So he's gotten away with it, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Right. And that's why I think I said if this wasn't being looked under a microscope, I think we would probably see that more calmer side, because that's what he does in the interviews. Again, and that's why I said when I first watched this, I wanted to believe he wasn't there, because he kind of seemed very, like, you know, he'd pick up and he even acted like and spoke like he loves Sebastian.
Right.
At some points. And then you see all the information that came out later.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, well.
And he's just gotten comfortable with it.
Yeah, he's gotten comfortable with his behavior and acting out and speaking in ways he shouldn't speak. And again, in ways she shouldn't be even letting him speak.
Right.
So this is gonna be the next part of that. So this was connected to, again, let me see, the hidden psyche. So what's beneath the surface? The man's spiritual makeup holds an extremely strong scorpionic karmic contract. So whether through Saturn, Pluto, or nodes, he comes into his life with power and control themes, often shaped by early trauma or household instability. There is a past life echo of abusing power under stress, which I think that's what's happening. And in this life, his soul is being given one more chance to fix it, do it different.
Yeah, he's not.
And he's not. And in this shadow state, he internalizes rage and expresses it through emotional manipulation and control, which we know that completely has happened from reports, allegedly, in my opinion. So he uses silence, gaslighting, or fear-based influence to maintain control in close relationships, and he has difficulty feeling true empathy, especially under stress, because I think he goes into a huge fight or flight. So it does make you kind of wonder what his childhood, too, again, what was like. You have these two people who their childhoods, in my opinion, and allegedly are questionable, and it makes you wonder, did they not kind of heal from those things? And if they did, would that have changed it?
And that's what we've heard about Katie's life, is that hers wasn't that great. And I'm sorry for that.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, nobody should have a bad life, but your job as a parent is to make sure that don't repeat. That's the point.
Yeah.
I mean, our life is very much to break cycles and make the right choices.
Right.
So if you're not doing that, then you're not doing what you're here for, in my
No.
opinion. Because again, we're here like to live our lives and learn from it, but we're also here to make other people's lives livable and happy and better. We're here to help.
You would think she'd want better for him and different
Mhm.
from him, to know all the struggles she went through and the pain she went through. You would think she would not want her child to go through that.
No, and that's why I think that Peter, when I watched the video of Peter Hyatt, he did say again, that parent or usually mothers who have been abused, whether they are super protective or they're not at all. And it's like
Right.
she just took the other opposite direction. Like whenever it started happening is when she should have stepped away. That's
It's
when
like
everything should have ended.
numb
Mm-hmm.
to
It's
her
like
own,
nothing.
yeah, to her own child's everything for her
Yeah.
own child. Yeah.
Right, and that's why I guess I said too. It's like a blank slate, like a brick wall, almost like a sandpaper fill. It's like I'm finding every way to feel abrasive and be cold. You know what I
Right.
mean? And
Yeah.
so,
It's easier that way.
right.
If for her to
So,
do that.
right, and so this is kind of what you were saying about his behavior as far as CP and the dissociation. So spiritually, he has dissociated from the moment of Sebastian's disappearance. That memory is fogged in his mind as if it never happened or it happened in a dream or maybe to someone else. But
Mhm.
his soul does remember, and this is when the haunting starts to begin.
Yeah.
So under pressure, what happens as the truth rises? As the tension grows, his spiritual and emotional state will begin to shift in measurable ways. So initial reaction, tightening control. He will become more controlling in a small, erratic ways. Attempts to monitor conversations, social media,
Mhm.
or anything related to Sebastian may try to rebrand himself as a
Yep.
victim or a misunderstood figure.
And he has done that.
Right. And he keeps rebranding himself
Yeah.
every few months because
Yeah.
he's doing it for both of them. So when you're rebranding yourself for two people and they can't speak independently or truthfully, then you're going to be doing a lot of rebranding. I
Right.
mean, look at the people in Hollywood right now.
You're going to be
So
constantly doing that. I mean,
constantly.
I don't know. That takes a lot of energy.
It does. And I think that's the point of like telling the truth and setting like the energy free because like this is going to take a long toll, not only on what's happening here on this realm, but it's going to take a long toll on the after realm.
Yeah.
So attorneys, again, I've said it, attorneys a lot longer, I think, that people want to think about right now.
Yeah.
So I think, again, with someone who has a cross tattooed on her, I think she should understand what that means. And if she doesn't, she probably needs to start reading up on it. Because if I was her, I'd be repentant like now.
Oh, yeah.
So, and again, he's very much responsible too. But the issue I'm having with her is you're his mom.
Yeah.
And the energy feels very strongly like that's what I want to come out as you. Like you. Like I said, again, I would mention to you, this is a lot focused on CP because, again, shiny things. She doesn't want to say anything, so I'm going to throw him out there and I'm going to let him say stupid shit. And hopefully it distracts everything.
Yeah.
And I don't ever have to say anything at all. That's what this is about. You know what I mean? And then, but they're messing up in the sense that you're speaking for two people who can't keep their story straight because they're drinking too much, one of them, and probably both of them. But I do think she seems to have, again, she seems to be way more than him. And I think that's why he does most of the talking.
And for me too, she has a thick, and you will know what I'm talking about. But it's like she has a heavy masculine energy to her.
Yeah, she does. And that's why I thought it was interesting that Seth had kind of said something in one video about, masculine energy, and we won't go too far, but I'm just saying, like, she has a very dominant energy.
Yeah.
And so that's why I said I don't think she's behind closed doors getting pushed around.
No, I don't.
That's all I'm saying.
Mm-mm.
So I just don't think that's happening. Like
in my opinion,
in my opinion, I don't feel that's what's happening behind closed doors. I think, again, she's most of like laying out the idea and then he's the mouthpiece. That's how I see it happening. And again, we talked about the good old boy syndrome that started this whole thing, in my opinion, too.
You kind of like see her as you give, as good as you get. Like she can give it back just like she's getting.
Oh
it,
yeah,
is what I'm saying.
And that's what I'm saying. That whole no ma'am thing, like it sounds so innocent, but it's not. Like think about that. Like she was probably really holding back on that too. So imagine what she's gonna say when she's not doing that.
Right.
So the next kind of thing it went into was an internal breakdown. That's going to be for CP and a paranoia, emotional floodings. So we have sleep disruptions, panic symptoms, sudden illness, or nervous episodes. Psychic static, he may begin to feel like he's being watched or even haunted. If he had any connection to Sebastian, even a faint one, it will pierce through at an unexpected moments and times, overwhelming him with shame. So crossroads, confession to deeper collapse. He may break in subtle ways, unguarded words, slips of truth, and drunken confessions. Or he may spiral into a deeper state of control, dragging others down with him emotionally. So this is when spiritual intervention becomes critical because his soul knows he cannot run forever.
Yep.
What Sebastian's spirit sees. Sebastian is not vengeful. He is clear. From the spirit realm, he watches with calm precision. He is not confused anymore. He knows what happened, and he knows by whose hand. He also knows the energy signature at that moment, and he knows and how it's burning into his stepfather's subconscious like a scar. So, there you go. Sebastian's spirit is full of wisdom, is not forcing justice. So he's not forcing that justice energy. He kind of wants it to play out and flow, is what his energy comes off a lot in the chart. He wants people to be aware. He wants people to be positive, but he also is not forcing something.
Right.
So he's very gentle. His energy.
His spirit, he's got a very gentle spirit, just like Seth said. His gentle is very he's very gentle, curious. He's just like, I just see him just a happy spirit.
Yeah.
Just like if that is the form he is in, that's how I would see him.
Right. And like you're saying, the energy around him gives off that. And like you're saying, that pure, innocent, loving, curious spirit energy, so that's what surrounds him.
Joyful dolphin. I agree. He's funny too. Yeah.
Yeah, he is funny.
Yeah.
He has a very, a very playful energy around him. So it's kind of saying also too, Sebastian's spirit's full of wisdom. It's not forcing the justice. He is allowing it to unfold. So he sends the truth to those who he will hear it with an open heart. He guides you and others towards his stepfather's unraveling. He knows I see, and this would be more like a spiritual quote. He knows I see him. That's why he can't sleep. That's why his silence grows louder. And that's why he's behaving the way he behaves at this point. So Sebastian has spiritual allies working on his behalf. His soul is not trapped. He is anchored in truth. The truth is magnetic. What you may notice as things build. Expect emotional friction and strange behavior from the stepdad. Possible health issues surfacing from emotional repression. Slips into his narrative or moments of agitation when Sebastian is mentioned. Static energy around him. Technical difficulties. Nightmares and restlessness. So is there anything that you have to say about any of that? Because now we're going to go into Katie's chart.
I'm sorry for the lawnmower. I know y'all are hearing it.
No, it's good. It's not loud.
As far as his little energy, I can see him not wanting to rush it along. It's like he has patience and he wants you to see the whole story. He don't want it to be like, he don't want you to see it right quick. He wants you to see the story that unfolded and see how it is. He kind of wants it all exposed.
He wants the whole truth exposed.
Yeah, that's what that's
Yeah.
what I feel like. I feel like he just wants it. And it makes me kind of feel more positive about that if he's in that kind of mindset, because that means that it's going to happen.
Right.
He's just trying to make it unfold a little differently than we want it to. But that kind of gives me a good feeling that it's going to happen. You know what I mean?
Right. And then I kind of earlier, I wrote down the phrase because I try to just hear what I get, phrase wises and things like that. And for him, it was kind of like, they didn't protect the innocent. So why are we protecting them? Truth needs to be exposed. He was in it. He's innocent. He's pure. He's everything they're not. You know what I mean? So all the stuff they've done, there's no reason why anybody should be stepping around their behavior or saying it's not wrong. It is wrong.
Yeah.
It's completely wrong. They know they're wrong. And that's why they're acting the way they're acting. And they also, it shows in their physical appearance. You can see that from here.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know how big y'all can see this picture. I've added pictures to this document, but the reason I'm adding these pictures is because you can see the night and day difference of what things were at certain points. And so it's just kind of, summing that up a little bit, that something changed at some point for something. And you can tell by looking at them now, they ain't feeling too good about it. They're only trying to survive, basically.
Right.
I think they thought their trading again was going to get them through a lot of this. It didn't. And again, you know, it's kind of where you going to go now.
I don't think they thought it was going to be this big because they, you know, children sadly and people go missing all the time.
Yeah.
But a lot of, I mean, I would say 90% of the people that go missing, we don't hear about it. You know, it's just that the story just doesn't get big. We don't hear about it. It doesn't become a national thing. And Sebastian's became big quick.
Yeah.
And
Way
I don't
quicker than they expected. I agree.
No, I don't think they were prepared that it was going. I think they thought it was just going to be one of those that someone's missing, you know, they're still searching for him and it would go along, you know, there would be checks in and I just don't think that they just thought that there would be this much attention and people looking for Sebastian.
Well, and I think their prior training has taught them to handle this very robotic, very routine.
Yeah.
And you're talking about a missing child here, a 15-year-old child who's autistic. Do you really think that that was good? Again, I don't know what these two people thought, like how this was going to work in any way, shape, or form still. Like, I just don't understand it, you know? And so that's the thing that just like rips your heart apart. And it's like, this is so unnecessary what you've done.
And that's the other thing for me is the level of, I mean, they said that he had just was just diagnosed with autism, but he was on the
higher end.
Yeah, the higher end of the spectrum, and he was taking medicine. So
Right.
how long would he have been just diagnosed?
Well, that's the other thing. She says that he's taking autism medication. There is no autism medication.
Okay, that was
Yeah, so that's a good point. Yeah, thank you. I've been meaning to say that, but it's never. We talk about so much stuff. There's no such thing as an autism medication. So I'm curious what she's talking about. Now, with that being said, do they usually give them some type of anxiety, depression medicine, something? Most of the time, yes.
Yeah.
But it's not for autism. If that's the case, then everybody who's on Zoloft and Prozac, then maybe you're autistic. Like, and I'm not trying to be rude, you know, and I'm not a doctor. I'm just saying that. Think about what she's saying. She's saying because he was on that medicine that's autism medication. It's not autism medication. It's to help balance out your emotions, and then he was probably taking things to help that, but it's not autism medication.
Right.
So they don't have anything specifically for autism that you get prescribed. Now, in night medicine too, yes. Like there's times that I have to maybe give my son night medicine when he goes for weeks or days, maybe, because he does sleep and like for long periods of time, but he also goes through periods of times where he doesn't sleep very much. So those periods I'll give him melatonin and that usually helps him. But if it's not helping him, then I give him his sleep medicine.
Okay.
So that's something else too. And it's usually, again, it's not an autism sleep medicine. It's the normal sleep medicine that most people are prescribed.
Yeah.
So there's nothing that says this is for, maybe it can be used for.
Right.
But it ain't specific to that diagnosis.
That's what I was kind of confused about, because she's like, he just got diagnosed with it and we were getting used to the idea. But I'm thinking, well, did they give him medicine that quick? You know, because for somebody that had just got diagnosed, you know, because these things take a little while. Medicine takes a while when you're diagnosed with anything, and particularly if you're diagnosed with depression or different things like that. They have to start you out on a certain amount and then change it and, you know, add to it or take away one from it or something. So I just thought that odd that according to her, he was just diagnosed and he's already on medicine. I was just wondering how odd that is.
Yeah, now they probably more than likely had him on it already. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think it came into place because of the autism. And if it did, it's not an autism medication. Like, again, they give it to people who have autism. Again, my son takes a one a day, which is for anxiety and depression.
Yeah.
And that's what we give him for that. And then he has like maybe like some other medicine to help. Like it's usually antihistamine that helps just kind of keep him calm. And then he has a night medicine if he can't sleep. Okay. So that's kind of how that goes. And so I was interested always what medicine was she talking about, kind of, you know, in that way, because she specifically said autism medication.
Right. And
so
I don't think she just said at night. So I don't think there was ever really I don't think she ever said what he took.
No, and then if you think about that too at night, like it kind of makes you under the impression, again, they were giving him medicine to just kind of make him sleep. And maybe that was, again, in my opinion, that's from what we're seeing so far, for me, from what I'm seeing so far. I mean, more. That's how I feel. But again, yeah, they don't sleep great, you know?
Yeah.
Their minds are busy, so they're going all the time.
Yeah.
So this is going to start into her psychic spiritual profile. So this is going to be Sebastian's mother. So I do have August 1989. Also, I put Hendersonville because that's, again, where it happened. I don't really have any other information as far as time or anything like that. So surface personality and psychological makeup. Sebastian's mother, with a sun in Leo or Virgo, depending on the date, carries two core energetic possibilities. Either the protective pride and performative denial of Leo or the anxious control seeking defensiveness of Virgo. Either way, she moves through life with a deep need to appear in control, respected, and validated. She has long felt shaped by the expectations and pressures of others, family roles, societal expectations, and unresolved generational pain. So her chart likely contains a strong Mercury energy, intellectualizing emotions, rationalizing her behavior from that. So again, very much emotionally detaching from her behavior, but saying she needed to do it. So it's, putting everything in that mind frame. And her moon, probably in Libra, Scorpio, or Sagittarius, creates a disconnect between her internal emotions and her external behaviors. She may also oscillate between cool detachment, emotional implosion, or spiritual bypassing when confronted with pain she cannot justify or fix. So, current emotional state. There is a deep fragmentation within her at this time. On the surface, she is trying to maintain a narrative that protects her from accountability, possibly by downplaying, dissociating, or redirecting blame. So spiritually, however, the weight of guilt is seeping through the cracks in her mental defenses. Her dreams may be restless, filled with images she cannot explain. Her body is anxious. She feels both watched and exposed. This isn't just the pressure of the public, it's her own soul being trying to confront what her conscience still is trying to deny. So this is the shadow side rising. So this is going to be those negative energies they're talking about of those sun signs. So by her not confronting those, that's why those negative energies are coming out.
Yep.
And basically she knows it. So that's
Yep.
that's the summary of that one. So soul level response. Her soul is at a crossroads. This life has brought her to a karmic echo point, one where she must choose whether to awaken or repeat. She has been here before in a past life. She denied the truth of a child's suffering, convincing herself that the silence or loyalty to another person was safer than acting. That karmic pattern is looping again in this life. The difference now, the soul of the child is Sebastian. It is much stronger now in this lifetime. So his spirit is pure and enduring. It is pressing on her soul with love, but also justice. So his energy seeks no revenge, but it does demand truth. Her soul feels the heat of this awakening. She may experience illness, sudden isolation, breakdowns in her outer life if she resists it too strongly. Spirit wants her to wake up, tell the truth, to grieve, and to take ownership for what she's done. So, behavioral trajectory as pressure builds. In the weeks and months ahead, you may notice the following shifts in her: increased agitation or erratic emotions as spiritual pressures mount. Her nervous system may become more visibly strained. Do you mind reading this part real quick, Tammy?
No. Contradictions in speech or memory. Her stories may begin to fray as she subconsciously wrestles with internal dissonance, I think, withdrawal, or strange bursts of public behavior, a sign that the soul is trying to regulate the tension between silence and exposure. Signs of spiritual visitation, objects moved, emotional overwhelm, or nighttime disturbances as Sebastian's soul or her own ancestors press in gently but firmly. Final notes from Spirit. She is not beyond redemption, but she must choose the path of honesty. Spirit says the mother was given chances before. Silence was the most painful betrayal, but the door is not yet fully closed.
And so, how do you feel kind of reading that summary now, where maybe her mind stands versus the stepfather?
Well, me and you had discussed this, that we thought maybe she might be having not sleeping well. She might be doing alternatives to help her go to sleep
Right.
sooner.
Like the alcohol.
Yeah, like the alcohol. And we also said we felt like he was visiting her, or some spirit was visiting her like she would see a spirit, or like hear something.
Right. I got the feeling when I kind of try to tune into what he maybe energetically is sending her. She brought up him jumping out behind the walls and scaring her, so that's what she was looking for that morning.
Yes.
The reason I think she brought that up is because I think she was already seeing it.
I do too.
And hearing it and feeling it in 2 weeks in. So I do think that she hears him. I think she sees him. I think that, especially, I think when she's getting ready to sleep, she hears him. I don't want to say yell the name, but you know how you get ready to go to sleep and you hear something and it makes you jump?
Absolutely.
And I think she hears Mama. And so I think he does that, and it is a way of like, wake up and pay attention to what I'm telling you. It's like, I'm not going to go away until you say what you're supposed to say.
Right.
So, and again, it's not just that too. Like I said, I think that the drinking, in my opinion, that I feel like is happening from what I try to see what's going on, I do think it is to cover up and help her sleep, help her eat, help her do all those things that yeah, because when I first looked into this case, it took me a month almost to get back to a regular, it was just so sad, like everything you read about it. And I mean, there was a good few weeks. I mean, I really didn't have an appetite. I didn't really sleep great. You know what I mean? And again, because you look at the things that you see, and honestly, to me, like, I don't even think, like, for their behavior and what they've done, like, the only word I can honestly put to it is almost like sinister, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because like I said, this kid was in his bed with his mother in his home where he should feel safe, and all of a sudden this, and you see all the flashlights, and you see the way they're talking, and you see the way they're acting, and you see all that kind of stuff, and it just is not what you want to hear or see. It's just everything you want to believe, like, again, that he's somewhere safe, but everything they're telling you says the opposite. Her looking at the sky all the time, every time she's talking to something.
Right.
I think about that when you talk to your loved ones who have, whatever, no longer here, you look up.
Yeah.
I mean, even when you're listening to a song, you look up.
Right.
So why would you do it in this situation? Why would you get a broken cross? Why would you do all these things?
Right. Yeah.
So,
it's just so sad, because the body language tells us
everything.
Way different than what, I would love to believe that he is still with us. I would love to believe that.
Yeah.
I would love that. That would be the best outcome ever.
Right.
But you have to look at the alternative, because it's either one or the other.
And the things they've said, what I mean, about saying he also, he hasn't had his medication for this long. So it's not like, and it'd be interesting again to know what medication they're talking about, because there's some medications you just can't skip like that.
Right.
So, and if it is a one a day like that, you definitely can't skip that, or you will
Right.
get sick within 2 days. So the fact that they're bringing, and in my opinion, the fact they're bringing that up says a lot to me. So this is kind of more of a summary that I have here for, his mother's kind of energy still. So Sebastian's spirit is not rooted in vengeance, but he is aligned with truth, clarity, and liberation for himself and for all the children that are still being silenced. So if his mother opens to tell the truth, healing is possible. But if she resists, the unraveling will continue until it becomes undeniable. So here's Sebastian's soul perspective on his mother's current energy. So his energy
I'm sorry, Megan, that's
No, you're
very
good.
Roll back up, or scroll back up to what the last paragraph. Do you see right there where he says, but he is aligned? Come back down just a little.
Is it there?
We're just talking about children.
Oh, okay. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay, here it is. Yeah, here it
It
is. I'm going
says
to highlight it for you.
for himself and all other children still silence. She spoke in an interview and said that she wanted everybody to start concentrating on other children that were missing.
Yeah, and they deserved it more. She said that. I'm glad you did bring that up. She said they deserve it, if not more. Again, how could you say that?
Right.
How could you say that about your own baby?
Yeah.
That's
what that reminds me of right there.
Right.
Yeah.
And and again, I did like a spiritual pull on him too, and I will maybe pull that up. I don't know if y'all want to see that. Leave that in the comment section about how I told you when I pulled his energy it had no, his spirit was wearing no shoes.
Right.
And that made me like shake to the core, because I was like, what? You know, I thought that just threw me off a bit, you know, because again, it was so, I mean, he went missing with no shoes. And that's why I'm saying, like, things she said,
right,
it came out in that, you know, and it just kind of blew my mind. And then when I said I didn't see him with glasses at this point, and you said you didn't see that either.
Yeah.
So
Megan, if you look at Spirit Seeker Squad, that's my friend Mandy.
Hi, Mandy.
She has a question, or she has a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
If you'd read it.
Let me see. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm looking at the other page, so I apologize.
Yeah, she knows. That's why I told you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I get on one track and I get stuck there. So okay. So yeah, the autism meds, is that the thing that we were talking about, or did I miss a different one?
No, that's it. That's it.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, like what Mandy's saying here, you know, and welcome Mandy. So she's basically saying she, you know, also has a high functioning 15-year-old with autism, and he's also on medicines as well, but there is no specific medicine for that, and so that she's also kind of saying that that's her experience with it as well. So, and I think for the most part, I don't want to talk for you too much, but I think that's kind of what she's saying with that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree with that, though. Again, I wish they would have asked her what medicines that he was supposedly on.
Yeah, because she specifically said autism medicine.
And that shows you, again, she don't know what she's talking about. Like, what are you talking about, lady? Like, I'm not trying to be rude, but what are you talking about? Like, there's no autism medication. And that's what I'm saying. The same thing with the wanderer. Never wandered before. My son's a wanderer. He's wandered probably 4 times, almost on a cruise ship in my backyard. I mean, every day I'm like, where are you at? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I have a GPS. Like, I literally had an angel sense. And it's like when you buy clothes and they have the tags on it, and you can't rip it off, or it rips the clothes off. You were talking about wondering. I used to have it on his school clothes. He ripped it off of his clothes. So this is what I'm saying. This is why you're like, you're lying. Like, you're lying, and it's really getting on my nerves. Just tell the truth. Like, you're making a fool of yourself even more than you already have. And this needs to stop.
And when she said that, I asked you and I asked Mandy, because both of you have children that have autism and they're on the spectrum, and I know that you're going to tell me the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you both have had, you know, they've been diagnosed for a while now. So it's not like, according to her, it was just recently, and y'all have had experiences. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to ask Mandy and Megan, because
maybe she said that too, because she knew she didn't have the language and the experience to bev. So that could maybe be a reason why she says that too. But I kind of feel like she knew. I feel like she knew for the most part. Like something was, a mother knows. You know what I mean? Like when my son was, they tried to tell me my son was nothing but speech in the beginning. Mm-hmm. And I mean, like my son, like he was completely, I mean, I even thought like he was above what he should be doing. Like excelling above what his age normally did.
Yeah.
You know? And so like, it was like, I woke up one day though, and it was just gone. Like gone.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get him to look at me. And I started noticing it because like I would see other kids his age, like in a restaurant and stuff, and I would see them like talking to their parents more and using their hands more and stuff like that. And so I told his dad, I was like, do you think that like he should be doing that? You know, I was like, and I kind of wasn't sure. And then the more I looked into it, and I went and told the doctor, and the doctor agreed with me, but like I tried to get him through speech and stuff. And there was this one lady, and she just kept pushing me down about it. She's like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. It's just speech. It's just this. And I'm like, look, I'm his mom. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm his mom. Something's wrong. I'm telling you. I was like, I think he's autistic. And so like when I finally had them come watch him at a daycare, like she kept like snapping her fingers and being like, oh, that's not autistic. That's not autistic. So then when he would do something that was autistic, I would snap my fingers back at her and be like, well, that's autistic.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's autistic. And then all of a sudden I turn around and she's gone. So I asked the lady, I was like, where did she go? You know, and like, oh, well, she stepped outside, and she comes in like 2 minutes later apologizing, like left and right about like how she was wrong. And I'm like, yeah, I know you're wrong. I was like, but what I want to know is why you're so rude. That's what I want to know.
Yeah, because you're trying to help your child.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing.
Right. So what would make you think this would be, again, what would make you think this would be the best option in my mind?
Right.
Lady? Because my youngest son is also diagnosed on the spectrum. Now, Connor, I don't want to say I don't talk about it as much. He's more high functioning.
Yeah.
So it doesn't interfere with him as much.
Right.
So, and I have traits that they both carry. So I think that when you have kids like that, like you learn how to deal with it. And that's all I was saying. When you go to these classes and you go to these Special Olympics and you engage in these events that I don't know if they had there, you learn that you're literally handed what you get because you know how to deal with it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like you're not going to be handed something that you don't know how to deal with. And that's why I said you go to these things and you go home happy that your life is the way it is. And that's the way it should be. You know what I mean? Like you're in again, Sebastian, just so much light, so much brilliance, so much laughter, like so much, you know, and it's like you look at these people and you just get so angry.
He had such a big life ahead of him.
Yeah.
He could have done great things, Sebastian could have.
Right. And I want to, you know, also like you're saying, all the dancing and he loves to sing, you know, I want to share all the videos, but I think I want to compile them in the video where I do more of, you know, I would like to do Seth's birth chart, but I want to step there in a way I feel it's comfortable. Yeah. But, you know, I also want to include those things because I want it to be something beautiful for them. You know what I mean? Because they deserve that. With all the bullshit that's being said and done, they deserve that.
Yep.
So again, I've had enough of the crap. I've had enough of them running their mouths about nothing. Like, it's just like, say something that matters and go away. Because that's what everybody wants at this point. No one wants to see your faces no more. No one wants to hear your BS. Nobody believes you.
No.
So, but yeah. So let me kind of see where we're at in the document here. Did I read this paragraph yet? I see her from above now. And this is a summary of maybe Sebastian's view from what I can pick up intuitively from his part. Okay, so this is going to be the energy around right now, what's going on. How's Sebastian's energy might be seeing his mother. So I see her from above, not as someone who failed me, but as someone who is trapped in a maze of her own making. I used to wonder why her eyes looked away when I needed her most. I used to try and be small, quiet, invisible, hoping that if I didn't make waves, I could be saved. I loved her. I still love the truth of her, even if she forgot how to love me in return. So that's just his energetic seal to her. You know what I mean? Because that's what I'm saying. I feel like when he very much wants her to wake up and like accept the love that should be there and say what you've done. And until then, it's going to feel this way.
Right. Can you take the comment off the screen so we can see
yes, ma'am. Sorry. Let me see.
No, it's okay. I know you got to
No,
switch.
You're right. I'm sorry. I don't even. There you go.
You got to switch back and forth.
Yeah. So
and I don't see him being so forgiving like that.
Yeah,
not that he deserves it.
Yeah, he's very quiet. He's quiet but firm in what his feelings are. You know what I mean? And it's like, again, you have the chance to fix it. You didn't. So the least you could do is speak up now. Because again, you know, as we know, like kids with autism, you are their voice, right? Like you're their voice. So that's your job, as all of us, like adults being here on the planet, our job is again to nurture anything that needs that. So that's children, disabled, elderly, animal. Like that is what you're here for. Like, yeah, you're here to like learn your own lessons and experience your own life and do all that kind of stuff. That's great because that's what we're here for. But you got to return something. You know what I mean? Like karmically, you're here to give back. And if you can't do, like, you can't keep taking and expect something back.
Right.
You know what I mean? Karmic debt is real. And so that's what I'm saying. Like they have a lot of stuff to make up for what they said and what they've done.
Yeah.
So, and they can keep playing like they don't know. But again, like you said, public scrutiny is the worst. Everybody has an intuition. Everybody has a gut. And I think we all know this ain't making any sense just as much as we know, like when you're watching the interviews of them, parents who are not guilty don't behave that way. Even that's why in the interview, the lady at the very end goes, oh my gosh, that dad. She don't say, oh my gosh, that mom and stepdad. Oh my gosh, that dad. Because, or, you know, that's what I'm saying. Like this is just gone too far at this point.
Yeah.
So let me see real quick though. I don't think we read this one. Yeah. So Sebastian's energy shows compassion and clarity in equal measures. From spirit, he sees both her human limitations and her spiritual potential. And this is still talking about his mother. He does not deny the pain. He remembers everything. The silent rooms, the moment she chose others over him, the flashes of fear that she told him, you are not safe here. So I do think she put him under some impression sometimes that he had to do what she needed him to do.
Yeah.
Maybe things wouldn't go in the best if he did it. So, in my opinion. So, but he also sees her soul trembling now, not from fear or exposure, but from deep sense of her own disconnection from herself at this point. So a lot of the dissociation coming back. So she is fractured, and he knows that if she doesn't face the truth, that fracture will soon deepen on her. So his gentle kind of wording to that is, her silence hurt, but I am not here to punish her. I am here to finish what I started, to become light, to be found, and to speak my name out loud. So Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers. That's been another big thing. They have not wanted his name spoken. And he's telling you, you need to. This is the whole point. They didn't. They silenced him. They made it sound like it wasn't important. So this is important. You need to say his whole name. She can't hold the lie forever. Truth is louder than shame, and I'm not afraid anymore from it. So Sebastian's spirit is not alone. He is surrounded by loving ancestors, some of her own bloodline, Katie's. So those who have been waiting for her to awaken for generations and change the pattern. So those are the people that are surrounding him and helping him. So they also weep for her, not just for what happened, but for the heartbreak she still refuses to feel or accept. So he is visiting her in dreams, sometimes as a shadow, sometimes as a whisper. She may brush it off as imagination, but part of her knows it's true. So spirit shows her eyes softening just for a moment when she sees certain photos or when the silence gets too loud. And I think that kind of happens with that green tea video. So, these are entry points for awakening. If she follows them, she can begin the long journey back towards her soul. And it just says, I want her to remember who she was before she forgot who I was. So I want her to feel something again, not for me, but for herself, because I'm not the only child she has failed if she continues to lie. I am the mirror. But the mirror can also be a window into freedom, into forgiveness, and into my home, into home's soul. So is there anything you want to kind of say about that summary for her?
Am I echoing?
No, not on my side.
Okay, good. I just think it's so sweet that he just doesn't look at her like we all do.
Right.
He's not
Right.
looking at her like a monster.
Yeah. And I think that's the kind of why maybe that's part of him doing it this way. Maybe he wants people to start softening to certain things and pushing her energy towards confession.
Right.
And in a way, you need to soften for that. And that's kind of, again, what you're seeing on all these opposite channels. They're trying to do the opposite to you. They're throwing a bunch of stuff at you to unsoften you by saying his green team instead of saying you mean the people who are searching for Sebastian to bring him home to his father.
Right.
It's not a team in the sense, it's like the way they're saying it is to put it down because they're on these hate channels. And I don't like so much say hate channels. I don't know any other word to say it though. That is what they're doing. They kind of gain their traction on these like shock factor moments of, like you said, they have these people on their page, and then when everything comes out, they can go, oh my gosh, I didn't know. Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. You all knew. And that's disgusting that you all knew. And then you want to sit there and turn around and say it's everybody else. Is it everybody else, or is it your nasty ass? I'm just curious.
Right.
Because like I said, this is what I'm saying. Like, I have held back a lot of my true feelings about this stuff, and I'm tired of holding it back. They ain't holding back, so why should we?
No, they're not. You're right.
Like, we're his green team, if that's what you want to call it.
That's right. We're here for
I'm not ashamed to be called that at all.
No.
So, and then so also I just did one view, and again, this is just spiritual hits and intuitive hits I get for putting his birthday in and the time frame we're in. So it is going to be written a more spiritual format in a lot of ways. But this is going to be the last part to this this document, and then we'll have the next one. I'm going to start bringing out more things. And again, if there's anything people want to know, like leave it in the comment section, and I will look into that, in the future. So but let me go ahead and get over here. So this is going to be Sebastian's spirit response, a soul witnessing of the truth unfolding. So I see everything now, and I am not afraid. Soul position between earth and light. Sebastian's soul stands in a liminal place, not fully detached, not fully earthbound. He watches from a spiritual distance that allows him clarity, yet he remains emotionally tethered to those who shape his story. He is not stuck, but he is invested. This is not revenge. This is not rage. This is the sacred grief of a child who remembers everything and still chooses love, even as the weight of the truth falls like thunder on those who remained behind. He is quiet, alert, and waiting, not just for justice as humans see it, but for recognition. He wants the story to be named Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers. How he feels towards his mother right now. Sebastian's energy becomes tender here. His spirit quivers with both longing and distance. He once reached for her in his final moments. He waited for her to protect him. Her silence was louder than the pain.
Mm-hmm.
But even now, he says, would you like to read that, Tammy?
Sure. Tell her I don't hate her. I just wish she had stayed awake. I still remember the time she did love me, even if they didn't last. That is so sad.
Isn't it? And then do you mind maybe reading this one too?
I'll read it.
Okay, thank you so much.
His aura flickers with old memories, tiny joys, moments she smiled, times she held him and meant it. These glimmers keep him from turning bitter, but he won't shield her from the truth anymore. She must walk her own spiritual fire. He will not carry her denial or rewrite the story to make her feel better, but he also will not abandon the small part of her that might one day awaken.
Right, and that's why this pressure needs to be put on her, because she is the link here.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand that CP runs his mouth and he seems to be the center focus, but it's not him. That's your distraction.
Mm-hmm.
So ignore him. Ignore everything about him. Ignore all the channels. Ignore everything, and he will self-implode. The whole thing will self-implode, and we'll get exactly what needs to be coming forth.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel in this situation. So how he feels toward his stepfather right now. And this is what I'm saying. There's not as much, it's kind of like ignore him at this point. There's a strong energetic boundary around Sebastian when it comes to his stepfather. There is no forgiveness here. Forgiveness implies humanity, remorse, and a soul contract honored.
Mm-hmm.
But in Sebastian's view, he broke that contract. The energy is now cold, cut, and final. This soul dynamic will no longer be restored in this lifetime or ever again, really. So,
yep.
Energetic message. I stepped into this life knowing the risks, because we do make soul contracts. So I just want to say that with that. But he took more than he was meant to. He chose his power over my voice, and I will not ever walk beside him ever again.
Mm-hmm.
So spiritually, Sebastian has fully severed the etheric cord to his stepfather. There is no haunting, no hovering from Sebastian's side, just distance. What remains is karmic reckoning, not from Sebastian, but from the universe itself. Sebastian's soul has moved on from that tie, but the echo of what he has done will follow his stepfather into his dreams, in his silence, and in the shadow until he confesses his part. How Sebastian spiritually responds to pressure unfolding. As awareness spreads, Sebastian's energy will become more visible. He is no longer just a memory or another name. He is becoming a force, and to be reckoned with, really.
Mm-hmm.
You may feel a growing presence energy when you speak his name, Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers. So electrical shifts, flickering lights, symbolic dreams. His emotional tone is stabilizing, less pain, more clarity. He is not stuck in the trauma, but as others are forced to face it, he does become stronger from that. So each truth is spoken about him pulls him further to the light and more into it. So he's beginning to reclaim his story. His energy resists negativity and drama. His energy moves closer when his name is said from a bright and loving place. Keep a candle lit for him to find his way. He is attracted to the light. He is a fire sign. Sebastian's energetic message. The world sees me. The less power they have to hide it.
Mm-hmm. See? Yeah. That's what I was saying. I don't think they thought it was going to be this big. And the bigger we make it, the more we see Sebastian and the more the truth will come out.
Right. And that's what I was saying. Like, CP wants to present this molehill, but it's a mountain.
Right.
So, and that's the thing. He wants to be seen, Sebastian, not as broken, but as sacred, because he's trying to change this whole concept and perspective of, and perception of the situation. Mm-hmm. So he's not as a victim, but as a child who deserves to be held, because that's what's important. He is a child who is missing. He deserves to be held. He deserves to be returned home to Seth. And again, this all needs to just, who knows the answers.
Right. Right.
So I am here and I am love. So Sebastian's soul perspective, the unraveling and the storm beneath. They are breaking under the weight of what they have buried. It was never stable to begin with, only stitched together by fear, silence, and a shared shadow. Sorry. But now the stitching is coming undone, and they can both feel it. So I am no longer silent. And then I guess I have a little bit more. Would you like to read this one, Tammy? Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay.
Sebastian is deeply aware of the growing tension between his mother and stepfather. We have heard about this too. Spiritually, it's not just arguments. It's a collapse of the energetic contract they made to stay blind together. The lies, excuses, and avalanche are no longer sustainable under the weight of truth beginning to rise. Their foundation was never rooted in love. It was survival, convenience, and mutual concealment. And now that survival is failing them.
Right. So kind of like going back to their past, like you were saying.
Yep.
It's starting to seem like their past very much intertwines, even though maybe just say, in my opinion, from what I see, maybe they received some of the same, maybe I would say disadvantages, I guess, in childhood, but in different ways. Different ways, but they all led to the same insecurities, the same issues, the same problems. And so, like you said, this is what that's saying. That basically they've covered that up for one another instead of facing it. And that's the thing, like when you can't face how, like if you're unbothered by this, then you have some unhealed stuff you probably need to look at, because it's usually going to connect back to that. So, and that's kind of what that's kind of pointing out to me. So it does kind of sum that up. Yes, there are fights and there is screaming between the two. His mother's spirit is cracking open slowly, painfully, and what spills out is grief she never gave herself permission to feel before. So in the quiet, she trembles, but under the influence, especially of alcohol, she screams. Mm-hmm. She turns on him. Accusations fly like broken glass. You told me this would be okay. Why didn't I listen to my gut? I should have protected him. This is your fault, and I can't live with this. So Sebastian sees these moments not with hatred, but with somber clarity. He sees her soul confronting her own choice to ignore the red flags, the tension in the home, the intuitive whispers she buried under favor and false security. The alcohol becomes her escape, but it's also a mirror. The mirror is starting to crack.
Mm-hmm.
So his stepdad, in contrast, is spiritually in retreat. He's beginning to panic, not just legally, but spiritually. And they are having some legal stuff go through court already.
Yeah.
His shadow is being exposed and he can feel it. So he gaslights, he deflects, and he tries to control the narrative. But the truth is slipping through his fingers. In the spirit realm, he appears fragmented, clinging to the mask that no longer works. He knows, he's always known, but now she knows too. And she's beginning to crack under that pressure. So Sebastian this is going to be more of like energetic pull on just their energy together. So she screams because the truth is louder than her now. So she loved me even when she failed to show it. And now her spirit wants a way out. But he only wants a way to hide. That's the difference between them. She still has a chance to heal. He only wants to survive.
Mm-hmm.
Their dynamic is unstable. Spiritually, Sebastian sees her slipping between blame and unbearable guilt. The relationship between them is becoming toxic in a different way now. Not just about control or secrecy, but about who is willing to face the fire and who isn't. And I do feel like that's happening. I think they're starting to kind of throw that out against each other. Like, well, if I'm going down, so are you.
Right.
So she is haunted. And it's not just Sebastian's voice. It's her own soul asking, why did I abandon myself when he needed me the most? So, Sebastian's energy is going to end with, if she chooses the path of truth, even now, she can still make something sacred from this pain. But she must let go, not into silence, but into memory, into truth, and into light. He cannot follow her there. That's what will separate them in the end. One of them wants to forget, the other can no longer bear it. And so there's a picture of Sebastian, again, my favorite, with little puppies loving him.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the end of the document, y'all. So any comments or, from chat would be great. And then if y'all have any, and then if not, is there anything that you kind of want to throw in here, Tammy, for the end of that?
Well, I think it's interesting, and I can totally see why Sebastian is not tethered to him at all.
Right.
Because that is very negative energy, and Sebastian is not anywhere near negative energy. He's love and light, and he's positive energy. So he would not want to be tethered to that at all.
No, and that's what it feels like for me. So I agree with that. That tethering is very much, again, it's like he is responsible in his own way, in my opinion,
Right.
But at the same time, his laser focus is on her. It's
And
on her.
And I can see him not forgiving him because he's the catalyst, the cause of what happened. Whether, whether, in my opinion, whether you believe he done something or not, and
Right.
I am on that end of believing he done something.
Mm-hmm.
But whether you believe he done something or not, he's still the root cause of
Yeah.
the reason Sebastian is missing. So I can see why Sebastian would be would not want to forgive him because he is the root of it.
Right. And I don't think like, I think you have to be your own kind of rotten person to even like engage in this stuff. But I
Right.
do think that, yeah, I agree. If they wouldn't have met each other, I kind of feel like this wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have happened. He was the catalyst. He was it happened because he kept pushing. I mean, and from what I understand, allegedly in the yard, neighbors heard the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of know that he was saying certain things, and now he tries. And then you said that he said the R word, tried to apologize about it later. The issue I have again with that apology is that it wasn't directly to Sebastian.
Right.
It was to everybody who was listening, who he doesn't want to think that he's an asshole.
Right. Just
So
to save his safe face. That's
Mhm.
that's what
And that's
was
all
for.
it's been. That's
Yeah.
all it's been from day one, is save face on their side.
And I agree with what Mandy Spirit Seeker Squad said. He thought he could discipline the autism out of him. I mean,
right.
Because I believe that's part of the trigger of what changed, in my opinion, was once he was diagnosed, now he's like different.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree. I mean, if y'all are saying like again that it was more of like closer to the time frame of his diagnosis, I wouldn't be surprised if
And I don't know when it was. That's what I was saying earlier. I don't know how. She just said recently, but they never really, unless Mandy knows, I don't think they ever really
No.
said.
They never elaborate on anything about it.
Yeah, how long it had been. So we just assumed that it hadn't been that long, like within the last couple of months,
But that's when things happen. And and again, you want to jump to statistics, like I think they were using to begin with. Usually when a child's diagnosed, and it happened in my situation, the parents are separated within months. Happened in my situation. It's usually, and especially for a guy, it's hard for guys to look at a son for some reason. And I'm just giving, again, a statistic reason why, not because of what I think my specific reason is. Why I'm saying for most of what I saw in the books was that most of the guys will kind of feel. Now, here's the problem I have with it. It wasn't Chris's biological son.
Right.
So he should have never had any ill feelings towards Sebastian about his diagnosis.
Right.
So October 23. So here we go. So he went. So again, months. So Mandy, within months. So here I'm saying, like, my son was diagnosed. Maybe let's just say September, October. I was single and on my own within 4 months.
Yeah.
So that kind of falls within the same frame. And again, it's kind of like, I don't know if it's trying to, maybe spiritually you don't know what to do, and so you try to release from the whole thing, hoping that it's not you. But I mean, you obviously know that ain't the reason. That ain't what happened. And so it's for all different kind of reasons. But
close to divorce in December. Yeah.
So, and I've seen that too. A lot of people try to debunk that here. You don't hear that coming out of him on all these lives, right? So he's debunking all these things that he doesn't think happened, right? But he's not addressing one, that he possibly could have been cheating on his wife, and that could have caused some of this.
Yeah, because he supposedly had the date, in the bar.
Right.
And that could have been, the girl that said that she had a date with him. That might not have been true. She could have been making,
I mean, people do that, but the likelihood of it happening or coming out more than twice to some guy who's been married 6 times, do you really think they're lying?
No, I don't.
No, they ain't lying.
Just trying to be that, it could be, she could just be wanting attention or something, but I don't think that was the case either. I think she really did have a date with him in Nashville at that swing. It was like a upscale kind of like pub kind of place, I think.
Right.
It was like downtown Nashville. It was like pretty ritzy. I was told.
Right.
Or I seen, yeah.
And see, and then, little Miss Sharon kind of comments that and I really do believe that she also has said that she does have an autistic son as well. And I think she said level 2. So she is just basically saying in her experience, it's family members and friends and the community that have no understanding of autism. And that's true.
Yeah.
I remember taking my son to doctor's appointments, and there could be people in the waiting room in scrubs. And just say my son starts ticking or doing something like that, right? They look at him and then look at me like, aren't you going to get your kid? Like, no, I'm actually not. I'm going to get you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because you just pissed me off. Like, not to be like, you're in scrubs. Shouldn't you be more intelligent than you are? Like, you're not talking very smart.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and I don't have any problem saying that to somebody. You know what I mean? Because, like, what's wrong with you? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what's wrong with you that you can't handle another kid ticking without you feeling uncomfortable?
Right.
What's it got to do with you? You know? So I just think that's what I'm saying. Like, you do have these people who should know better and should be supportive, and they kind of don't have maybe that education. But you even look at some of the people who do have the education and they still don't act that way. So I do think this is much of what his story is about too. Like I had said in a different comment, you know, we were watching a video where they were talking about some of the interviews with Sebastian, and I was speaking again with people in the comment section about my son having autism, and some jerk jumps in is like, oh, well, how many vaccines did you give your son? Why would you say something like that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Why would you say something like that? Vaccine's been around forever, number one. So, and you know, I don't think that has anything to do with it. Even with my son, I held back vaccines for Connor a lot longer than I did on Andrew.
Yeah.
So, and I don't see that much of a difference. He still got diagnosed. So what does it matter? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't. I think it, you know, so, and again, I'm not trying to make it about that. I'm just saying, like, why do people say such stupid, uneducated things?
Right.
So that is what more part of what I think Sebastian's trying to say, and his energy is like, this is what needs to be called out.
Right.
You know, so, I mean, I know you can't force people to be educated, but you can push it on your own platform. You can push on if it's important to you.
Exactly.
If it touches you, if it means something to you, then maybe you should say something like that. Like I said about this, I wish that, like, you know, when it happened, had just started working at a new job. I was kind of wrapped up in my own emotional problems. You know what I mean? And looking back at it, I'm like, damn, you know, I really should have looked into this more. You know what I mean? Like, this is important, not my drama. You know what I mean? And so when people say the things they say, I'm like, y'all are just cold-hearted and horrible, to be honest, for some of the things they say.
Yeah. And I agree. He stayed 3 hours away from home and wouldn't. He was home. I don't even think he came home on the weekends, did he? It was like every other weekend or something that he came home. Or
he was only home every other week, and at that too.
Yeah.
And we're talking about him needing to be possibly in any type of different, you know, underpants, things like that. Why would he be at home by himself if he was so unable to take care of himself?
Yeah.
Because then again, that doesn't border on neglect.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the truth, and that really was the case, then maybe, like, I don't know, in my opinion, they need to be charged with child neglect. Because if you got a kid who needs to be in a pull-up and you're leaving at home by himself for hours, then you're neglectful.
Right.
In my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
The same way she said, well, I put him to bed and I never checked on him, but he was in a pull-up, apparently, supposedly. Okay, well, if that's the case, do you not check on your kid in the middle of the night when you have a baby to change their diaper? The first thing I would do when I have younger kids, and even Andrew wore pull-ups, and again, I'm only going to say this because of the situation. Andrew wore pull-ups, he was 6 years old. Every time I got up, he didn't wet his pants the whole time, but it could happen sometimes. He was still learning to go to the bathroom. Okay, so if I got up to go to the bathroom, I'd go check on him too, make sure he didn't need a fresh diaper. I don't care what time of the night it was.
Right.
So again, neglectful, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. And I think Chris was like, you know, somebody was saying in the chat how kids listen to their parents, like Mandy was saying. I could see him saying kids are to be seen, not heard.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if he is expected to be called Mr. Chris.
Yeah, that's what he called him.
And I'm not saying, and again, I call you Miss Tammy sometimes when we get on. So it is a Southern thing to say, but I don't Andrew don't call Chris, and actually, like, and this is just, you know, too, because of the situation, Chris doesn't discipline Andrew at all.
Right. But he don't call him Mr. Chris.
No, and he don't call him Mr. Chris either. He calls him Chris. Andrew's never wanted to call him Dad, so he doesn't have to.
Right. Yeah.
He doesn't, and I definitely wouldn't fucking call him Mr. Chris either then. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's kind of like, what kind of person gets off on making a kid call them Mr. Chris?
It's weird.
It's weird. It's a weird, like, jock your own self kind of thing.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Last time Chris was home was February 2nd, almost a whole month without being home. Yeah. When he was 3 hours away. Yep.
I don't see that comment. Who
It's
made it?
right under. I've seen your messages. Smoky Snake Cherry, right under Chief.
This one? Oh, okay.
Yeah, there, yeah.
Last time home was Chris second, almost a whole month without being home. This is why I say they're combing over the weeks. I said 2 to 3 weeks, I feel like. And that's almost the exact time frame.
Mm-hmm.
And then 3 hours. Thank you, Manny, for all the threes and this and all the updated information on that, because yeah, I do feel like that.
Yeah, because Megan, we were talking about Mandy. We were talking about all the threes. Like 3:37 and 3 hours. 3 hours away from
and 3 minutes.
3:09 video and 6:33. They called. I think 6:33 is when they called the non-emergency phone number.
And 3 is an angel number here. Like it's an angel number pulling forth in the sense of like awakening.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that there's so many 3s falling into pattern here. And I know you can, but again, also in Peter Hyatt's, he did say that liars use 3. And we do know some of the numbers 3s they gave, they couldn't possibly happen in that time frame. So that's kind of where that falls into liars pick 3. But there's also some number sequences that happen to be falling into place where I think it's kind of mocking their choice of the word, like number 3.
Yeah.
Because all these actual 3s are starting to fall in place on the security footage. The things they didn't want people to look at.
Yeah.
Those have a bunch of 3s in them.
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting. The ones they wanted to push have 3s, but the ones that actually do, they don't want to talk about. Right. Again, don't talk about the shit that matters. Right. And that bothers me again, because like you said, who doesn't get pissed off? Like he said in that interview, as much as we want it to be flashlights in the backyard, why would you want there to be flashlights in the backyard the night your kid goes missing?
Yeah, I would be like,
I would be horrified.
Sniper suit, ghillie suit, no, in the bushes waiting.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I would be horrified. My heart would probably drop out and be like, what is that? What? Like zoom in on that, enhance it. And this is like, stop talking about it. Stop looking at it. I'm going to stalk the person who's talking about it. Like, it's just, it's so unhinged. It's so unhinged. And again, these two people can't read the room.
Yeah.
Can't read the room. And that's the issue.
I live so far out in the country. It bothered me when I found a animal trap. Remember when I found the animal trap, Megan? And I was like, I'm gonna put out there.
We did a whole reading on the animal trap.
Yeah, I mean,
and I said it. I was like, that is pretty weird. I mean, like to have an animal trap on somebody else's land in the country, because we all know you're just gonna. I mean,
and that
somebody else's land.
That bothered me. I'm like, who put a trap on my land? And I wanted to put cameras out there and everything, and that was just an animal trap. Which, because I don't believe in trapping animals, but what I'm saying is, look how. And in the big scheme of things, if somebody's in your backyard with a flashlight, that's way more important than me finding out who put a trap. But you know what I'm saying? Even that little bit of thing, I wanted to find out who did it. Right. So why wouldn't you want to find out who's lurking in the bushes in your backyard?
Yeah, because you know who's in your bushes. And then she makes that comment we called out in the last video about her running. Where'd that come from?
Right.
She said that she was driving, I thought, right? We'd have to pull it back. But
I ran back home. I mean, drove
back home. And I was like, that's what the camera that's what the flashlight's doing. It's scurrying back. That's why I said she just told on herself. She was running back, and that's what she was doing.
Yep.
And what's the stuff up with Chris's arms? You know what I mean? I'm gonna say that too.
Those are dog bites, in my opinion.
And they happen to be spaced apart, almost like Sebastian's.
They're not dog bites, is what I was trying to say.
No. Yeah, and I agree on that. So I just want to kind of say that too. You can kind of very much see that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so I kind of feel like, again, I just kind of feel like they're kind of just both being cowards in this point, to my opinion. They both just can't come out and do the right thing. And then Mandy says 3 can be a lucky number, but not when it's repetitive like this. Exactly. And the thing about it is, I think the reason the number 3 sticks into their mind so much is because in my opinion, from what I've seen, it's all happening at 3 a.m. And that's what I'm saying. Like some of this, it happened on a Sunday. It happened at 3 a.m. when spiritual veils are the weakest. It happened that day. He did everything that he loved, and it was all done to the biggest, like blown out thing you could do.
Right.
So there's just some things that it's like, what are the chances of that? Like you listen to Madeline Soto's, and I think most people know Madeline Soto's case and things like that, and that she went missing the same day as Sebastian, actually. And but
Right,
that
she did.
day, yeah, she went missing the same day as Sebastian. Now they did find her body, and he's
Yeah.
being tried, and so is her mother and stuff.
Yeah.
But that's kind of my point with that. You know, it's kind of like I don't know. I'm just feeling like it kind of comes out at that point. So with Madeline,
Right.
so I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But I was kind of like looking at the comments, so I kind of checked off. My bad. I started reading, and that's why I was like, I try not to read stuff because then I lose my thought process.
I get it. I know. I get it.
Okay, but what I was, and now I got it. So Madeline's birthday, that's my point. Madeline's birthday party was that day she went missing. Everybody who was there said Madeline wasn't that happy. You know what I'm saying? And then like looking back on it, some of the stuff they look at, like looking back at pictures, that thing she was taking all those pictures of him the day before. She was
Mhm.
taking all those things, and everything was supposed to be the biggest, happiest day ever. You know what I mean? It's kind of, it kind of contrasts it in the happiness, but it kind of shows you something wasn't right the day of or the day before.
Right.
And so that's my kind of only point with that. Something was off those days. And again, looking back at it, Seth kind of said he looked at some pictures and he was like, he doesn't look like he could be his happiest at the bowling alley, looking
Right.
back on it now.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of my thing with Madeline. I think people thought maybe she was just in a mood because her mom wasn't at her own birthday party
Oh, yeah.
the day before this even happened. And so I kind of feel like looking back on it now, you're kind of starting to see all the things that Katie was lying about that day and why she was doing certain things. So let me see. She said, oh, Mandy sent you a picture.
Okay, let me see. Oh, yeah.
If you want to text it to me, I
Yeah.
can email it to myself and then I can pull it up.
I will do that. Let me do that right
Yeah,
now.
because I haven't seen a still shot of the arm. I've only seen it like from far away, like very pixelated on the screen. Yeah, the really good weekend that I cooked that morning. Like, what was going on that you felt that you had to go above and beyond that day? That's what bothers me about it.
Okay, I'm getting it now. I'm going to send it to you just a second.
Okay. Yeah, I just have to like email it to myself and then we'll pull it up. But yeah, I do want to see this picture. Like a still shot of it.
I texted it to you.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to go and send it right now and then we'll pull it up.
Did you get
Yeah,
it?
and that's the thing. That's why I'm glad she sent that picture. That's what I'm saying. You can see it. You can see the marks. And that's what I'm saying. You can't tell me. That's why I said going back to good old boy syndrome. Does Ellie have it? I don't know. We're wondering. I'm wondering.
Yeah. And there was I didn't see it, but several people have said that there was because I don't have Twitter. I have X, but I don't go on there. I don't even have a password anymore.
I have a hard time finding stuff on there, to be honest.
Yeah. But they said the one over the case, I always forget his name. Somebody made a comment about and Mandy will know this better than me, about it was kind of a lewd comment about SA with young kids, and he said it's not that, it's more like snuffle hugs or some kind of crap like that.
Is that why you asked me that the other day about that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I get a heavily like screaming no, but it doesn't feel that same.
Yeah.
And I had mentioned that to you. So
Yeah.
you know, like I get in that moment of but it's
Correct.
almost like light is so intense that it's not that what I'm getting, you know, but I do think in other situations,
yeah,
possibly.
I think what they're doing is trying to prove that he's like sketchy, but Craddock is his name. That's right. But I don't know if he is or not as a detective, you know, but I think that's what they're trying to give him no credibility as a detective, I think.
Right.
I think Snuggle Struggle. That's what it's
Snuggle
called.
Struggle. Yeah, that's what it's called. Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Okay,
think
let
they're
me
just
pull this
trying
up.
to discredit him, I think is their purpose behind that.
Right.
And I don't know
That seems
who.
to be all they want to do is discredit
Yeah,
everything.
yeah, and
All
I
right,
don't
let me
even know
find.
who put that out there. I just heard it.
Okay, so let me see if this picture comes up so everybody can kind of see it. Can
Yeah,
y'all see that pretty well?
Yep.
So you're looking at the teeth marks here. This is what I'm saying. This is scratches?
No way.
No
No.
way. Does that not almost look like an exact imprint?
Yeah, that is no way. That
And
is.
this is kind of like how they got certain evidence against like other individuals, is things
That don't
exactly
even.
like this.
That don't even look like scratches.
No, that looks like a bite mark. Straight up
Yeah.
bite mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so
they're
it's-
separated far enough apart, like Sebastian's are. And I 100% would believe that's what that is, in my opinion.
Hold on one second, y'all. I don't know if I can like scroll down. Hold on. Let me see if I can do this. Sorry, it's gonna bounce back and forth, y'all. How did I just pull that up?
Meg and Mandy is so much better at this StreamYard thing than I am.
Yeah, it's like I just pulled it up and I don't remember how I just. Oh, there we go. Okay, sorry. My bad, y'all.
She is so much better at this. I'm learning so much from Mandy.
It's like when I scroll down, it moves completely. Hold on, let me take this off the screen too. That's probably
I
not
told her
helping
she
either.
needs to start a channel that just teaches people
How to use the computer.
yeah, how to do YouTube and StreamYard and just make videos and stuff.
Yeah. So I can't get the zoom thing out. I don't know if I keep zooming in. I feel like it's going to keep going down. I try to scroll, but it keeps moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it kind of, again, like right there, you can see where this little pattern lies right there.
Little
So
Miss
that's kind
Sharon, I agree. Law enforcement must be on a holiday to miss those, but I agree.
Yeah.
Unless they're just making us believe they don't think that. They don't know about
Yeah,
them.
and I'm kind of hoping that's what it is at this point. I'm
Yeah.
kind of hoping it's more or less we don't want to acknowledge it. And they kind of, again, even though Megan Boswell, I think, was charged a lot sooner from what I remember, they did the same thing with her. Like, I remember getting super upset because I didn't think they were going to do anything at all. Like, it was like they weren't commenting on it. They would tell everybody basically to mind their own business, quit talking about it like it was nothing. You know what I mean? And then when it finally came out, I was like, oh, well, thank God. You know what I mean? I was like, they finally did what they, but I'm just saying, I'm hoping, because that was in Tennessee too. Megan Boswell was. Evelyn Boswell. So I'm thinking maybe that might be their kind of way they go into stuff a lot. Maybe is not saying much.
Yeah.
And it might help because look at Casey Anthony. People talk too much, and look where she is on the freaking TikTok as a victim's advocate for her own daughter that she didn't report missing for a month.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why you want some things, I think, to be silent sometimes.
Mandy being a smart aleck. Mandy, I see you being a smart aleck.
Yeah, pretty much. That's a great opportunity. You'd be surprised. I would watch it. So, but before we kind of sign out on this, is there any last thoughts, any last questions? Again, if y'all have any questions, drop them in the comment section. Please make sure, also we want to thank Tammy also for being here too. I just want to do that before we get kind of to, closer to the end. So, and she's on Barnes & Noble True Crime, correct?
Yes.
So, her information is in the description. The video that we used for America's Most Wanted, that's also in the description. So check out both their channels, subscribe. Also, there's more people in the comments over here. They got channels. Check those out. But is there anything that you want to kind of sum up on here?
I hope, and in my opinion, I think there's a lot more that law enforcement are being quiet for a reason. Do I believe that? I do. And I'm hoping, and I'm going on my intuition side of it, that they do have
something
more evidence than we know they have.
Right.
And obviously they can't show their cards.
Yeah.
No pun intended for us.
Well, look where that gets us sometimes. I mean, I know we all love to know because nobody wants to be in the dark, especially in a situation like this. But sometimes it might be for the better. Megan Boswell got life. They didn't talk about it, the whole time it was going on. And then when you watched it go to trial, a lot of these poor detectives, officers, I mean, you could tell they were broken. I mean, Megan Boswell, I mean, that poor baby, Evelyn Boswell was pushed down into a trash can upside down. You know what I'm saying? And so, and it's cruel. All this shit's cruel. And so it just makes me feel like, maybe they just have a different approach where they're at. I'm hoping that's all it is. Again, because everything I have in these analyses is these are all predictions. These are all energies. So again, this is what I feel from the situation. I'm not saying anything going to happen in an exact time frame. It's more or less, this is the energy surrounding it. This is how I feel. If it doesn't come out now, I think it eventually will.
And I don't think that I don't think, in my opinion, Chris is totally wrong about that they have nothing. I don't believe that they absolutely have nothing and they have nothing. I don't think I think he's trying to make himself believe there's nothing, but I don't think that there is just nothing.
Right. And you look at public opinion in this case, and again, if you try to feel into his energy, try to go with his intuitive hits, it's very good much telling you to be calling this out is what's going to bring it to light. You know what I mean? So the more you kind of say, I don't believe that sounds like BS. You know what I mean? I expect the mother to be speaking up a lot more than this. What do you have to say about it, mother? You know what I mean? These are going to be things that matter. And I said, and I think this will be their downfall.
Yeah.
So the more people kind of push on them, the more we're going to kind of get those answers we want.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like as long as we keep pushing in a positive light, going towards the same direction, no matter what they do on all these stupid channels, all the crap they talk, all whatever it is, it's going to get past that, And Ellie, let's see, I think Ellie would tell the suspects they have exactly. So and again, he wants you to think you have nothing to look at because again, nothing to look at. Keep moving. You know what I mean? Just like what was it? The college student, was that Riley Strain?
Yeah.
Oh, and you know what? Here. I just looked at. Isn't Riley Strain a girl? Or am I wrong?
No, it was a boy.
Okay, because I thought I saw a thumbnail where it was a girl. So I was just about to say I didn't. That's why I asked. I didn't know if it was a girl or a boy because I thought that was interesting too when they first said about the age. But either way, the age, comparing the age, comparing the age, comparing how they went missing, just comparing the whole situation. It has nothing to do with the other.
No, it doesn't. They're totally different. One's an adult and one's not.
Right. Yeah. So Mandy just said, no, Riley is a guy. But regardless, like we were saying, the age, the situation, how they're trying. It's like, again, they don't want you to look at this. They just want you to look at this. And that's kind of what the Chris thing.
He was in a bar. Sebastian was at home in his bed.
Right.
I mean, they're
night
not
and day.
even near each other.
Yeah, night and day.
Yeah.
Crazy. So, and that's what I'm saying. Like, it's so far off that you're like, what does it have to do with the other? And again, kind of goes back to the interview of her going, well, all these other kids deserve it, if not more. What are you talking about? Yeah, you just want to look at her and be like, it's just disgusting.
Yeah.
But okay, well, I want to thank everyone for being in this chat. It was a great live. I feel like I hope y'all all enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed it as well, Tammy. And thank you so much for lending your time and all that for chatting with us. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, anytime, my friend.
Yeah, and then I'll be working on the next document. So we're going to keep going with that. So we're not going to stop. We're going to keep rolling with it. So momentum's going, so let's keep it up.
That's right. Let's keep the good energy flowing.
Yeah. Again, search for Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, and let's keep that going because that's what matters, not the other two fools that are trying to make you distracted from that. So
this is true.
Right. And I want to thank again everybody for being here. It was a pleasure. I had a great time, and we will see you on the next live. So it'll be more than likely, I don't know what your schedule is. We'll try to do it maybe in a couple days. If not, it'll probably be this time again next time.
Okay.
I'll keep you updated in the comments. All right. Well, I love you, friend. Thank you so much.
I love you too. Talk to you later.
All right. Bye-bye. Have a good night.
You too. Bye.